Welcome back. So today I'm going to make some currants rolls. Right now I'm getting my butter ready. Now this butter was in the freezer because these things has to stay cold in order to get that nice flaky texture in the pastry. So I had to put them in the freezer for a little bit until I was ready to use them. And so I have butter and I have vegetable shortening. And now I'm using, you have to use cold water, so I'm using some ice water. I'm just putting some ice cubes in there. Alright, so my ice water is ready. So now I'm going to start cutting up this butter in the butter and the shortening in very small pieces. Now we have to work really fast with this because if this starts melting, it's going to ruin your whole pastry. So once working with flaky pastry, you have to move fast. Flaky pastry or puff pastry as they call it. So you have to cut these things up and just keep them cold. So I'm trying to move really quick with it, and I'm going to just add them to my flour and we'll go on from there. Now that it's all added to the flour, I'm going to just start kind of breaking them up. Now, the end result of this, you want it to be like fine sand, like little pebbles in there. Like you want it to be really fine. So you're trying to like really break up this butter in here. And as I say, you have to move the butter and the shortening. You have to move really fast. Now you could do this in a food processor, but my food processor broke, so I have to use my hands. So I just kept, just breaking it up and making sure that all the butter is like in really fine little pebbles looking, a little pebbles look. So once that is all mixed in and broken up, I'm gonna start adding the cold water. Now you're gonna bring this into a nice dough. Now you don't want to knead this like you're making bread, because you're not trying to form any gluten, you're just trying to kind of more fold it in. So I'm folding it in with that cold water, and I want this to come into a nice ball. Once it comes into the ball, I'm just going to just pack it together, because this has to go back into the refrigerator. Now you can put it in the fridge. I put it in the freezer because I wanted to make this really fast, but you can just put it in the fridge if you're not going to make it right away. But for me, I needed it to make it right away, so I want this to be really nice and cool. And as I said, when working with flaky puff pastry, you have to move like really fast. And in order to get that nice flaky texture, you have to keep this cold. Everything has to be cold. So I'm going to wrap this in some saran wrap and put it in the freezer for maybe like 30 minutes. I'll put it in the freezer because I don't want it to freeze up, because I'm trying to use it right away. So now I'm going to work on my filling. This is my currants. I am going to start adding all the ingredients in there. So I'm adding some brown sugar. So once the brown sugar is added in there, I'm going to mix it up. And you just want to get all the little clumps out. So you want to mix it real good. Once I get all of those clumps of sugar out, I'm going to add my cinnamon. That's cinnamon powder, ground cinnamon. And once that's all mixed in, I'm gonna add in some mixed essence. Now you can use almond essence or whatever essence you have, you can use. This is what I had at the moment. I can also put some vanilla in here. So once that is all mixed in really nice, I'm gonna start putting in some butter. Now you could do this butter two ways. You can melt the butter and put it in there, or you can cut it up like I'm doing. If you're doing it my way, it's gonna take a little, you're gonna have to like really, you know, mix it in to that, just so that the raisins, it's all incorporated where the raisin is coated with it. So the butter is actually soft, what I'm using, but it's not melted. But melted will be, I just didn't want it to be too watery when I put it onto the dough, so that's why I decided to just do it like this. So I think this way might be better, but you can play around with it. You can also brush some butter on it before you put the filling on, but I think this way worked better for me because it's not too watery. We're gonna set this aside and we're gonna start working on our dough. I'm going to take it out of the freezer and divide it into the amount of currants rolls that I want to make. So I think I'm gonna make about 3 or 4. So I'm just cutting them. I'll make about 4 and I'll just cut them. And you know, as I said, you got to keep these things cool. So the ones that you're not using right away, you can put it right back into the freezer and just work with the ones that you're work on it one at a time. So I actually just left one out and I wrapped all the others and put them back in the freezer. It just makes things easier. And as I said, it keeps your pastry really nice and flaky when you keep them cold. And my kitchen was actually very hot, so I had to work really fast with this. So once I have those wrapped up, I'm going to start rolling out this one dough that I have. So you want to roll this into a rectangular shape. So you know, you just want to roll it where you can roll it into a log. So you see, I'm kind of, you know, stretching it out and working really fast because, as I said, you can't let this get warm. It has to be cold. So I'm trying to move really fast with it. You want it to be nice and thin, not too fat, because I don't really like my currants roll with too much pastry. I like it like, you know, nice and thin, at least the pastry part. I don't like it to be too fat. So you want it to roll out nice and thin. And then once that is rolled out, you're going to start adding your filling onto the pastry dough. So just spread it out. Once it's all nice and spread out, I'm going to sprinkle some brown sugar onto there, and then I'm going to roll it up into a log. Now you're going to make sure this log is really tight because you want everything to stay intact. So you want to also tuck in the ends really tight. So make sure you tuck in the ends really well. And I'm going to put this back into the freezer because as I said, my kitchen is a little warm. So I'm going to put this back, wrap it in some saran wrap, and put it back into the freezer until I'm finished working with the other dough, because if I leave this out, it's just going to ruin it. So I have to put it back, put it into the freezer. So I'm just going to wrap it up and put it in. So this is something that you definitely have to be mindful of, keeping these pastries very cold until you put it in the oven. So I'm going to work on the second one, and you're going to see the process. I'm just continuing the same process, repeating the same process that I did with the first one. And always use enough flour because you don't want it to get stuck onto the board and then it's breaking up. So with this pastry, you can also use raisins. I don't really like it with raisins. I tried it before and I didn't like the taste that it gives. You just have to cut up the raisins really small. If you like raisins, you can try it. But for me, currants, it just gives it that taste. It's currants roll, so I don't really like the raisins in it. But as I said, you can give it a try and see what, if you don't have currants. So once I have both pastries complete, I'm going to put them seam side down onto a baking tray. And I kind of marked it so I'll know where I have to cut it. That's optional, you can cut it after. And I'm just brushing some egg wash on there. That's just 1 egg with some water, maybe like 2 tablespoons of water mixed with it. I'm just brushing that on there. Once this is egg washed, I'm going to poke a few holes with a fork. Now this will help the steam to escape and the pastry won't be too swollen up. So once this is done, I'm going to put it in the oven to bake. And once it's done baking, I'm going to let it cool completely and cut it up at an angle, kind of slant. This is what it looked like when I cut it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, and share this video.